everyone, and welcome to Walford Weekly, your EastEnders podcast, where we'll be discussing the stories that aired on the BBC in the UK between Monday the 22nd and Friday the 26th of February. And it is my honour to be joined once again by Rob. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Alexander. How are you?
I'm very good, Roberto. I'm doing very well.
Excellent. An honour. Bless your cottons.
I've signed you up to Kim's dating service. I thought it was about time that you got back out there.
God for that.
Yeah.
Where are your testimonials?
I'm very hopeful for you. After your stint on the Undateables, I thought it was about time, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after my stint on RuPaul's Drag Race, I'm sure they'll be flooding in.
Yes. I mean, Ginny Lemon was loved by all, but unfortunately not by RuPaul.
Do you know how many people that I got messages from about that? So many people going, "There's a guy on your Drag Race, it looks just like you." I don't even like Drag Race. I think I'm the only gay in the world that doesn't watch it. So to be getting all these pictures coming through with this, and it's always seemed to be the same picture as well, where he was pulling some sort of face.
I mean, to be fair, Ginny Lemon would pull a face pretty much throughout the whole series. There'd be a face pulled at every shot that was of him.
Well, every picture that was sent to me, I was pulling an expression that made me look like I was sucking on a lemon. So it's.
I mean, he was a great character. He was very tight. Anyway, this isn't RuPaul's Drag Race Weekly. This is EastEnders Weekly.
It never will be.
Well, as long as you're concerned, it will never be it. And we are going to talk about all the stories that happened this week. We're going to start with a bitty story, one that I'm quite happy to just forget about, to be honest with you. And that is the continued story of Ash and Peter getting together, Bobby being a nurse again, because Bobby seems to have this role now where if anyone's unwell, they stay on the Beale sofa and Bobby looks after them. It happened with Rainey, now he's doing it with Peter, and I just feel a bit sorry for Bobby that he's been kind of just classed as this kind of just caretaker for the rest of the Albert Square.
I mean, I think that's where it went wrong for Lucy. She went on the floor instead of on the sofa. If she stayed on the sofa, she'd have been absolutely fine.
Yeah, Bobby would have taken care of her. He would have given her a bit of warm water, a flannel on the forehead. She would have been fixed up in no time.
Not an issue. Yeah. Stuck an plaster on her head, she'd have been fine. Bless Bobby. I did feel for him this week because Kathy gives Peter the idea, why don't you take your brother out?
Yeah.
Just take your brother out clubbing, in this COVID pandemic.
Bros night out.
Clubbing. Yeah, but you're right. And Peter seems to be fairly up for the idea. Bobby's very up for the idea. He likes the idea of going clubbing with his cool bro.
Wow.
And then at the last moment, just as they're getting ready, Ash turns up at the house. This was just ridiculous. Turns up to tell Peter, yeah, I've been properly suspended. It's not looking great. So let's go get drunk together. Yeah. Because that worked out so well last time.
Why does Ash forgive Peter so quickly? Because it's Peter's fault that she is in this position, and she just doesn't seem to care. She's just like, oh, shall I just get drunk with you again? It's just so silly.
You're not a bad influence on me at all. I was amazed that Peter bothered to send him a text message.
Yeah, I was shocked too. I thought that it would just be a note that would go missing and then it wouldn't be found until the next morning.
I thought it was just not even that. I thought he was just going to walk out and Bobby will be all right. Just walk out and leave him. But Bobby's sort of left high and dry and watching telly with Kathy again, and you can tell that he's upset, and you can tell that Kathy wants Peter's blood for it, so I look forward to that moment.
I feel sorry for Bobby. I mean, Kathy opened a nightclub so Ben could find love. Why doesn't Kathy open something for Bobby? Like a new mosque or something for him to find to find a home for him to live in.
Kathy's credentials include her opening mosques for part of a business, so she won't go to that either, so she may as well. She's sleeping partner with all the businesses around Walford.
I mean, Kathy is trying her best to give Bobby a life outside of the Beale house, and it just doesn't seem to be working out. I feel so sorry for Bobby. And Bobby let slip this week as well in front of Suki that Ash has been suspended as well. And Suki,
I thought that Bobby did that deliberately.
Did you?
Not there seemed to be a little bit of mischief in his voice when he said it, and then when he sort of saw Suki's reaction, he was like, yeah, bye, and walked out. I was like, go on, Bobby.
Afterwards, Bobby thought to himself, oh, hang on, I've put my foot in it here, but then didn't really seem to care, especially since Peter seems
Why should he?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Peter doesn't care about him. Why should he care about their relationship going onward? Nah, Bobby did the right thing. Very much so.
He did. King Bobby. I mean, where is this going, for goodness sake?
Well, it's going to be Ash and Peter, isn't it? They're getting together.
Is it?
Well,
Are they definitely going to get together, do you reckon? Or do you reckon... I'd love it if Ash was just using him for, I don't know, company post-Iqra. That'd be good.
Well, Iqra's moved on, apparently.
Yes, with the barmaid that I keep forgetting exists until she appears.
Yeah, which seems to be a character that's not a character. It's
Mila.
weird. Yeah, I know. I wonder if they're...
I quite like her.
I do too. I wonder if they're making her a bit like Frankie. They're kind of just treading the waters delicately and seeing how it goes with her. Because I quite like the relationship between her and Suki.
Yeah, I like the relationship between Mila and Kim that seems to be developing. That's quite nice, because I'm sensing that the actress who plays Mila has kind of got... She's quite good at sparring with Kim, and she's got like a little bit of comedy potential in there for her as well, I think, which might brighten Iqra up, because Christ knows she needs it. Because Kim's on one this week, because she has got it into her head that she is Cilla Black. And in her exact words, I'm a black Cilla Black or something like that. She said, didn't she?
Yeah, she could have said a London Cilla Black, or like a non-Liverpudlian or something, or Scottish. She's a black Cilla.
Lara laughs. She's now got it in her because she's trying to set up Isaac and Lola. That was her main thing to do this week. And then she sort of like saw Isaac and Lola chatting and thought, well, I'm great at this. And then decides to immediately set her next targets on sorting out Mila and Iqra.
I think so. I like that Kim's got this storyline, because she's always been someone who's a bit like fluttery and likes to do her own thing and always has grand ideas and silly, and they tend to be a bit silly. And I mean, you know, starting a dating company in the middle of a pandemic seems a little bit
let's just
blind
the pandemic
to it.
Doesn't exist in EastEnders at the moment. Let's be fair.
Well, let's use the words,
which is fine.
Well, let's use the words of Kate Oates. We're in a parallel universe now. She said EastEnders is in a parallel universe. A whole new world where anything can happen.
New world, I'll tell you that.
It certainly is. But yeah, so Kim's starting this dating business, and I totally agree with you. I like Iqra and Mila. I think they're a good team. And as you say, Kim and Mila as well is a good little team between them too. So it'd be nice to have a story with all three of them maybe combined together. It'd be a bit of fun. Perhaps Iqra could, with her business degree, could help Kim along with her new venture. I
do wonder how much longer Mina's going to be working at the Prince Albert, because every time that we see her, it seems to be that she's giving away free drinks. Kim sorted it like her and Iqra talking by saying, "Oh, by the way, Mina's giving away free drinks to anybody who sits at the bar," and Iqra's like, they're like Roadrunner.
I know.
Well, to be fair, she doesn't need to worry about Kathy. She's never there, so she can do what she likes, really. Who is in charge of the Albert at the minute? Because wasn't Tina working there for ages, and she's not there now. So who is doing anything? Like, Mina's the only staff we ever see at the Albert now. You wait till the 21st of June. The Albert's going to be full.
Yes, that's when we're unlocked. So anyone outside the UK that doesn't know the news, we've been promised by that mad Bojo that we are going to be out of this by the 21st of June.
Oh,
I don't hold out but I hope.
For that day. You wait for that day, Alex. Oh, I won't be doing the podcast that Saturday. Even if it falls on a Monday, I'm not going to be well enough to deal with it on the Saturday.
I'll be joining you, Rob. I mean,
right.
Just to go off subject for literally 2 seconds. The thing I've been telling everyone I've missed the most is just going to the pub, ordering a pint, and just sitting down and having an ice cold beer in my hand. I just cannot.
Conversations.
Oh, and and just chatting to random people, having a few drinks.
Yeah. It's not the same.
It's really not the same. Dotty is starting a new venture this week. With
what is this?
Tiff. Yeah, it's
what is this?
It's a kind of like a Hooters, I guess. You know, in America they have Hooters, and you go to a table, and then you have like a very good-looking woman serving you chips and meat.
Chips.
And you have beer.
And meat. Chips and meat.
Well, I don't know. It's a very manly, very masculine, very alpha male kind of environment. I've never been to one, as you probably would know.
So there's steaks being handed around left, right, and centre.
Raw. They ask you, when
raw steaks.
I want a cow put on this table, is the word.
T-bone steak, and these women just carrying it around like something out the Flintstones.
Yeah, exactly. Hooked onto the side of the car with Dino. Dino pops his head up through the roof. It's all good. This is what's happening in America right now. And this kind of table service, waitressing, is what Dotty is suggesting Ruby should start maybe looking down that avenue for her business as well.
Yeah. The plan seems to be that Tiff and Dotty will sort of pay more attention to the male customers at Ruby's. Flash a little bit of leg, a little bit of cleavage. I feel that Dotty is going to step away from the more practical sides of this little business plan and just sort of give Tiffany orders. So it's literally just going to be Tiff sort of flirting with the male customers in front of Keegan, who's busy going to be working behind the bar. What could possibly go wrong?
Who knows? Doesn't like Tiff doing anything a little bit risque. Keegan's not going to like this, is he? Keegan is going to be very, very upset by this.
No, and Tiff's not even told him, and she knows how he's going to react to this. So I can see them sort of doing this like, whilst Keegan's back is turned, rather than Tiff actually telling him what's going on. And then Keegan will think that Tiffany's too timing him, and then they'll have a big old bust up, and then Dotty will step in and go, well, you're right, she's a slag. I'm not, though, Keegan. Booby wiggle.
Ah, I see. So do you honestly think that's Dotty's plan, that she's planning this? Well, I thought Dotty was basically being a bit business-minded, and she wants to be seen as, as good as Ruby.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily that this would have been like a grand plan, but because I think it's been sort of established in the past that Dotty wouldn't mind a bit of Keegan, hasn't it?
No, that's true.
So I feel that if things started to go wrong between Tiff and Keegan, she'd quite happily step in quite quickly.
It was nice to see Tiff and Dotty having this friendship this week, because Dotty asked Tiff about, tell me everything you know about Ruby Allen. I don't know that Tiff knows that much about Ruby Allen.
That can't have been a very long conversation.
No, like literally 5 minutes. It's like, she owns the Ruby's Club. Johnny
She's
Allen.
Called Ruby.
Yeah.
Brown hair.
I think she's pregnant, but she's very thin.
She might not be, yeah.
She's married to Martin.
Strips on the table. Yeah. Doesn't like Stacey that much.
No, but they used to be best friends like you and me.
Yeah, remember that.
Yeah. I don't think she put her in a dumpster, though.
Yet.
Yeah, ... Yeah. So, yeah, I thought that was a very odd line. But I suppose the information that Dotty received from Tiff was what she used then to get the plan underway. It seemed to work with Ruby, and everything seemed to be okay. But
so we'll see how this plan pans. I don't predict great things for this new business venture. It's about using like the female body to sort of take advantage of drunk males' egos, effectively, isn't it? So I don't know how that's gonna go down, even with Tiff. Like, how is Tiff actually gonna feel like doing that?
Yeah, I mean, a woman should see it as like it's empowering to them. I think that there's nothing.
I completely agree. If men like hand over like £20 notes because a girl shows a bit of thigh, then all power to the woman, as far as I'm concerned.
100%.
It's all about like how that but it's all about how that makes you feel as the person that's doing it. If you're cool with that and you're looking at it, and go, yeah, you're an idiot. Sure, I'll take your money. Then absolutely fine. All power to you. Fair play. But it depends like how far. I think Dotty's going to be the one that's pushing it rather than Tiff like fully enjoying doing it. I think it will be one sort of customer that's a bit handsy, and Tiff will want to step away from it, and Dotty will be like, nah, it's just a business, mate, carry on.
So Dotty's kind of pimping Tiff out there. she's
effectively, yeah. I think that's effectively where it's going.
Oh my goodness, imagine Dotty in like a zebra coat and like a stick cane and just walking down the Albert Square.
My girls look after you.
Keegan and Tiff are moving in with Dotty as well, so do you think there could be as you said, there could be a bit of a temporary distraction there as well? Maybe there's going to be a scene where Keegan gets out the shower and Dotty's kind of going, ooh, and that kind of it's the beginning of something between them.
Yeah, I predict the start of Zotty fairly soon.
Zotty. God. Oh, do you ship it?
No. I quite like Keegan and Tiff together. I like that it's basically these two young adults that are sort of basically being faced with each of the world's problems for young adults, sort of one issue at a time. It's like, oh, we're skin. Oh, God, we'll better deal with that then. Right, we're all right again now. All right, we haven't got anywhere to live. All right, we've got a house now. It's fine. So it's sort of like, I think the issue is effectively what young people have to do to be able to live sometimes,
to
especially
survive
somewhere like London. Yeah.
No, I agree.
So I think that's quite an interesting issue.
I agree. I wish they'd do a bit more, though, with that, rather than these kind of extravagant, over-the-top ways of doing it. But then, this is the era that we're in at the moment, so let's just embrace it and enjoy it. Ruby has had a very roller coaster week this week. She got a scan and she lied to Martin by that dropping of the book. Whoops, and then took the scan and then put it in her pocket.
What was it? What was she was she literally just like sort of waiting in that waiting room like a lion on a pride looking like an antelope, waiting for some sort of discarded scan photo that she could steal? Like, what was she doing?
I don't know. I know she had her appointment, she'd finished, and then she started
and then just sat there in the waiting room.
Yeah, very casual conversation with someone, and then just as coincidence would have it, she was like, you're 12 weeks, are you? Oh, okay then. Can I have a look at the picture? And then the phone rang for the lady she was talking to. Then she stole the picture. It was just, everything was very coincidental. It wasn't set up. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like she had planned to steal it.
She didn't smash a fish tank.
Exactly. Which I would have enjoyed, to be honest with you. At this point, I would have.
It was the same place as well, wasn't it? Where did Mel do that? Was it in a doctor's surgery? Or
Mel's was a doctor's surgery. It was an NHS doctor's surgery because she took Sharon to. Because something happened to Sharon. Oh, when Sharon was pregnant, something happened to Sharon.
See, it could have been the same place then in that case, couldn't it? I quite like the idea of this sort of recurring thing where this fish tank gets repeatedly smashed by the women of Walford as they're trying to distract somebody in the waiting room.
In this incompetent private clinic. I mean, to be fair, you
just got this receptionist behind the door. Oh, not again!
Why do I put up with it every week? Oh, I'm gonna have to go buy more goldfish again. Off to the pet store.
To the fair.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, so she steals this scan photo, which she then takes home to Martin, because at this point, Ruby is just thinking, right, I'm a bit behind the dates. I still do not believe that Martin would twig onto this at all. You know, with like dates and all of that sort of thing. I don't think he's got that sort of brain. I think Ruby was overthinking it. I don't think Martin cares.
Martin bought vitamins for Ruby this week, and he said, "Oh, I think these are the right ones because there's a picture of a pregnant woman on the front of it." And so, okay,
back some jogging. These stretch, right? Yeah, so you can wear these, can't you? It's fine.
Yeah. That although he's had 12 children now, I don't know. It's just
at least
he should be somehow into the kind of rhythm of how pregnancy works by now. You'd have thought, but no.
You should know.
It's still a mystery to old Martin. Oh, Martin, he
Bless him.
Doesn't really know what's going on.
If it ain't an apple, he don't know. Ruby goes home with this stolen scan photo. Now, would it have had like any details of the actual woman that she stole it from on it, or was it just like any scan can be a picture of a baby?
I think there's dates on it. I presume they might have the surname on it, but Ruby gave it to him in a kind of paper picture frame, didn't she?
Yeah, she like kind of hold hands over the like relevant details. Like, no, don't move my hand. Just look at this picture.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah. Stacey, meanwhile, is still on one about everything that's happened.
Oh, she's fuming.
Because Martin and Ruby come up with the idea to take the kids away for the Easter holidays to Greece, which I think, if anything, is, again, proof that the pandemic does not exist in Walford terms, which is fine.
Parallel universe.
Parallel universe. It's like Doctor Who. Stacey's nose is immediately put out of joint by this because, you know, it's not afford to take all the kids to some exotic Greek island where they film Mamma Mia or something. So she storms round to Ruby's and just starts having a go at her, doesn't she?
Well, it's in the Vic, I think, first of all, because they decide to have a kind of an adult meeting, and it literally was just Stacey shouting at Ruby.
Yeah,
the whole time.
I mean, bless Stacey. She's got a lot of love qualities as our Stace, but she ain't an adult in many ways. She doesn't really deal with sort of diplomacy well. It's not her strong point.
I can kind of see now why in the space of 9 months Lily went to being this very kind, sweet, lovely little girl, went away with her mum, had literally consolidated 9 months with her mum, and came back as this horrid, mean, very selfish, evil child. So I think time with Stacey can be quite infectious for a child.
I'm not supposed to like Lily, am I?
Well, this is what upsets me, because I loved Claudia Winkleman's Lily, and I thought that she was brilliant, and she was so sweet, and I was a bit like taken back when they brought her back as this, when she came out the black cam, was like, "Oi, Mum, where's the sunglasses?"
Oh, she's a chav now, isn't she? And she's a manipulative little madam as well, isn't she? Because she was looking at some nail varnish or something on the store, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And Stacey was like, "No, you can't have that." And Lily's like, "Well, that won't do, Mummy." She realises that there's some stuff kicking off between Ruby and Stacey, and then immediately turns around to Ruby and goes, "I'll make it fine. Just buy me this nail varnish." And Ruby's like, "Well, all right then."
Yeah.
It's kind of tricky to sort of see where Lily is going to, because Lily, I think, from here on, is just going to be causing no end of problems, isn't she?
I mean, they've made
anybody that crosses her.
They've literally made Lily a mini me for Stacey, and that's, I presume, their plan now. Ruby had a miscarriage at this point, and it was when there was the argument in the Vic. Now, obviously, after the argument, then later on, and Ruby gets pushed down the stairs or trips down the stairs by Stacey. Ruby then says to Martin that, it essentially says it's Stacey's fault for why I lost the child, but kind of indicated it was because Stacey didn't like them being married, and has a vendetta against her ever since they were married, and so she deliberately had pushed her down the stairs. But there is an argument in my thought. I think Stacey kind of didn't help matters either by getting Ruby so riled up and deliberately kind of pushing her buttons.
No.
That might have been the reason why she lost the baby. So I kind of sympathise with what Ruby
in some way
did.
it is in some ways it is Stacey's fault. You know, before the miscarriage even happened, she has been so stressed and like so on edge about everything that's been happening with Stacey and Martin.
Peeing in a bin.
Constantly trying to get one over and so peeing in a bin.
Yeah.
Stacey tried to make her pee in a bin. In some ways, you know, in a roundabout way, it sort of is Stacey's fault. Ruby did this whole sort of falling down the stairs thing deliberately. I don't think she did. I think it was genuinely an accident, and then she's taken advantage of the situation because it showed like a heel snapping or something, didn't it?
Essentially, Stacey didn't push her, but if people hadn't seen, then it looks like that's what had happened. But I'm sure there's some CCTV camera somewhere that will show.
I was about to say, there's a camera. I'm sure we've seen like security views from that point, from that stairway before, haven't we?
I'm fairly certain, from even as far back as when it was R&Rs, you know, and Ruby and Roxy, something had happened then, you know. So I'm sure that's where it will come out, like Stace will somehow get the footage. I mean, Dotty, I still don't think Dotty has... Something's going to happen between Ruby and Dotty, and I think that's going to cause Dotty to also maybe side with Stacey and do something to help her out. And so maybe Dotty will get the footage later on down the line. But for me, essentially, I think Stacey is to blame. I think Stacey is. And I know the way that Ruby's going about it is a bit naughty, but I think she's within her rights to say it.
I mean, the inclination is going to be that Ruby is going to use that incident on the stairs as sort of the bit, like, Stacey pushed me and then I fell, so that's why I've lost the baby, rather than her saying that Stacey has, you know, been going on and on and on and on at me, and so she genuinely believes that's why she's lost the baby. How much is she lying as opposed to how much is she actually telling the truth to Martin of what she believes?
Ruby seems to be telling so many lies that she's kind of tangling her up. It's like when Stacey this week kind of outwardly said, I know what you did with Kush, I know that it was you that got me beaten up, and Ruby still said no, it wasn't. And it's like, there's a lot of evidence to indicate that's not true anymore. And I think that Ruby is tying herself up with so many lies now that it's becoming a little bit difficult for her to distinguish what the truth is and what the lies are anymore. What
I'm loving is the fact that whenever Ruby does anything bad, it's always before she looks at a picture of Johnny. Like, she looks at the picture of Johnny Allen, it's like she absorbs his power. The spirit of Johnny Allen lives within me. And then she just goes and does bad stuff. So where does it go from here? So Martin is now going to be against Stacey, and like war between Stacey and everything is going to start happening, and we're obviously leading up to another Lacey Turner exit. So is this going to be Stacey running away?
Well, no, Stacey's not got anything to run away from. As like you said last week, and I hope it's true. I hope that Lacey Turner kind of only leaves the soap for a couple of weeks and kind of dips in and out, films a few scenes here and there, so you almost don't notice her maternity leave or her having a break for her second child. The person I feel ultimately most sorry for in this whole story is poor old Martin, because as usual, Martin is stuck in the middle. I hope that this doesn't reborn Dark Martin 2.0, because I don't need that in my life.
No, never again.
No.
Never again.
We don't need that in our lives. To be honest, I feel a bit sorry for Ruby this week, and I feel, as I said, sorry for Martin, and I get Stacey's argument, but I don't like the way that she's kind of coming across.
I also want to say I thought Louisa Litton, who plays Ruby, was absolutely was amazing this week. I thought she gave some great performances in all the scenes that Ruby was doing this week, because you really sort of seen this sort of psychological break for Ruby at the minute. It seems to be like a turning point in her psyche as to how far she's prepared to go. So I think I like Ruby like this, unchained Ruby. It's great. Like, she's just, like, you get the impression that she will sort of go to some really dark places now, which is always really interesting to watch.
Dark Ruby.
Who do you think is the smartest and cleverest person in EastEnders history?
Libby Fox.
And the thickest?
Trevor Short.
This is Libby and Trevor's pub quiz. So this is Libby and Trevor's pub quiz. Now, what's going to happen here is, Alex, as you've said, Libby Fox is an academic gifted student.
Yes.
And Trevor Short isn't.
No.
And what's happened is they have been asked to write a quiz for the pub. And they've even gone as far as to write the same sort of questions. But one is hard because it's written by Libby, and one is easy because it's been written by Trevor. However, both questions have the same answer. Okay?
Right.
And they're all to do with current EastEnders characters. So, first of all, I'm going to ask you Libby's question. And if you can work out the answer from Libby's question, then you get 2 points.
Okay.
And if you need to Trevor's question, then you'll only get 1 point if you get the answer. Okay?
Have Trevor's questions on the ready, because I will be no doubt.
Humiliation is coming. So, number 1. Libby's question is, which character at time of recording, currently lives at 46 Albert Square.
I hate locations. I know the one.
I know, I'm awful at them as well.
Oh yeah, one is right in the top round corner, so that's grey, and then he goes left from there. So 46, I would think, would be one of the newer houses where the Ahmeds are staying. So I'm going to say Iqra then.
You're going to say Iqra.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to stick with Iqra when you hear Trevor's question? Same answer. In 2012, which character was engaged to John Hewland?
Well, it's definitely not Iqra.
John Hewland. It's definitely not Iqra.
No, John Hewland. Albert Square, 46 Albert Square. Mm-hmm. Sorry. I'm just making sure it's not like Bridge
Coronation Street.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Yes. Ken Barlow.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, well done. Gonna have to hurry you.
I don't. No. I don't know. I can't. I just can't. I feel.
You don't know. Okay. So no points for this question. But if I was to tell you that 46 Albert Square is quite an iconic address on Albert Square, would that help you at all?
It's not the Vic, is it?
It is the Vic.
Really? Oh, then Sharon.
Yep. It is Sharon, yes. 46 Albert Square. John Hewland was the character that she was about to marry when she returned in 2012. You know, the Hurricane Sharon trailer with the wedding dress and all that sort of thing. John Hewland is the guy that she was going to marry, that she had to be rescued from.
By Phil.
By Phil, of all people, yeah. So, not the best of starts, but there's 4 more questions left to go, Alex. Don't be too downhearted.
4 more to get wrong.
Yeah. Okay, here is Libby's question. Which character's first ever major storyline was described by the Daily Mirror as one of the darkest and most disturbing storylines EastEnders has ever attempted?
Darkest ever attempted. Oh, okay. I'm going to guess Chantel.
Chantel, you're going to say, okay.
Yeah, that's
so if you still want to say well, we'll see. We'll see when you hear Trevor's question whether you want to stick with Chantel. Which character's first episode featured her sleeping in a bus shelter?
Oh, I know. It's Whitney Dean.
It is Whitney.
Yeah,
yes.
It's the. Oh, okay. No, that makes sense. That story. Yeah.
Yeah. Tony storyline. It was very controversial at the time, if you remember.
Yeah, I do remember.
Yes.
Yeah, because she was sleeping in a bus shelter with Bianca and the other.
Yes.
The rest of the litter.
Tiffany. Yeah, and Tiffany's first appearance was that episode as well.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, I say Tiffany's first appearance. Maisie Smith's first appearance as Tiffany was that episode. So there you go.
Did we meet Tiffany? Oh, yes, we mustn't we? Because she was a baby with
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So I wonder what that baby's doing these days. Right. So 1 point so far. Maybe. Not too bad.
Can you imagine if she's still a baby?
Yeah, she's just stuck there as an age, like the Teletubbies' son. She's still a child after all these years.
The spirit of Toya Wilcox.
Oh, that's taking me back. Right, so question number 3.
Yes.
This is Libby's question. Which male character's first appearance was on the 29th of October 2019?
I'm going to say, well, I reckon it's either Mitch or Gray.
Okay.
So I'm going to go crazy. Just say Gray. I'm going to shoot it out there.
You are mental.
Bang, bang, done. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to say Gray. Here is your easier question. Who was responsible for nearly killing Martin Fowler in the Minute Mart?
Oh, Vinny.
Vinny, yes. Yeah, I'd got it into my head that Vinny, Jags and Kheerat all arrived on the same episode, and they didn't. Kheerat and Jags both arrived on the 2nd of October, and then Vinny didn't turn up until the 29th of October. Yeah. And then Suki turned up in January. So there you go.
That's it. Because
it was Vinny.
Jags and Kheerat were scoping out Ben's the car lot, because he still owned the car lot at that point. He stole the sunglasses. And it was at that moment, that very first moment,
randomly kidnapped Lola.
Yeah, at that very first moment, I knew
he was the love of your life.
That Kheerat was the love of my life, and that Jags had to go. Because he just was...
Yeah, bless him.
That's when Kheerat walked into the Beale house to threaten Ben.
Oh, yeah.
And he was wearing the white socks, the really, white socks pulled up to his ankles. And I was like, yes.
I remember.
Fashion queen.
That's my boy.
Yeah, that's him. That's my man. I knew it from that moment.
Wow. And then I could hear the violins that day. I remember it well. Okay, so you've got 2 points so far, Alex.
That's all right, out of 6.
You're happy with this, are you? So just 2 more questions left to go. One of the reasons for casting the actor of which long-running character was his shape, skills in stage fighting, and a variety of sports, including boxing, football, and karate.
I think I know this. It's Ian Beale, Adam Woodyard.
You reckon that Ian Beale was cast because of his shape, skills in stage fighting, and a variety of sports, including boxing, football, and karate.
I'm fairly certain. I know you're making fun of me, and I think this is a ruse by you.
Would I? Would I?
I'm sure. I'm not certain. I think that I remember watching a documentary about how EastEnders began. And they were talking to the original executive producers, and Julia said that she cast Ian Beale because when she saw him in a drama, they cast Adam Woodyat because when she saw him in a drama, that she saw him like potential with these certain skills. And I don't know why, but I've drawn what you've said as the skills I've drawn to. So I'm going to say Ian Beale.
Okay. See if you still want to stick with Ian Beale after you hear this question.
I won't, but carry on.
Who is stepfather to Ian Beale?
Oh, God. Well, who is stepfather to Ian Beale?
Mm-hmm.
Kathy's not married. Well, Phil.
Yes, it's Phil. Phil Mitchell. Yeah, that's a mad thing to think, isn't it? That Phil was Ian's stepfather. That's very weird, that. But yeah, he was cast for his shapes, and it makes total sense if you think about it. His skills in stage fighting, so let's be honest, Phil does very little else but fight people, especially when he first arrived.
True.
And a variety of sports, including boxing and karate.
I like the fact that he was cast for his shapes, like he was good on the dance floor.
Night fever.
Put on a record and Phil was there.
Yeah, exactly. Right, this has gone really, really well, this game so far. Your last Libby question is, which young character was originally named Petal by her father?
Honey.
Yeah, okay. And you can stick with that. For the easier question is, which character is portrayed by an actress simply known as Grace?
Oh, bother. Why did I think it was Honey? It's not Honey, it's Janet. I knew it's Janet as well.
Janet.
I love Janet.
So, I love Janet. Queen Janet. Let's review that performance, shall we?
Do we have
to? 4 points.
I mean, I am disappointed.
10.
Yeah. I mean, I got it on the last question, bar the first one.
You did.
And I had at least I had reasons for why I said certain people when I gave my answer. It wasn't just like I popped a name out of the sky and said, oh, it's them. It's Wellard.
Yes.
Because he's hairy. You know, I could have done that, but no, I didn't. I gave justifiable reasons for why I said them. And yes, they were stupid. And yes, they were wrong. But I'm proud of them.
Yeah. Good. You stick with your convictions, Alex.
I will.
Oh, dear. So there we go. That was Libby and Trevor's pub quiz. So, a great performance there, Alex. Congratulations.
I need to lay down.
I'd also like to say, listeners, that Alex has confessed to me before we started recording that he's absolutely off his tits on coffee.
I really am. I've been really good these last couple of days where I've not had any caffeine. And I thought, you know what, I'll treat myself to a little coffee when I'll do the recording.
Little coffee.
It's quite a big coffee. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But I'm literally jittery from caffeine right now. It was a mistake. I'm not going to lie. It was a mistake.
We're lucky to have got this far, frankly. He's going to crash in about an hour.
There's going to be a hell of a crash, I tell you, 3:00. So Phil and the Mitchells are up to their dodgy dealings once again, but the Panesars want a bite of that pie, so they try. They do. So they want to undercut the Mitchells, but unfortunately, they've got themselves into more than they can probably handle. But before any of that, let's talk about Kat and Phil and how Phil upset Kat this week by calling her a scrubber.
I mean, you know, if the cat fits. See. What is going on with Kat? Like, is she like? Really, are we supposed to believe that she's really falling for Phil now or something?
Yeah,
because she seems to be really annoyed by the idea of Phil like getting with Sharon, or she's really, really starting to like him, which is nuts because it's Phil Mitchell. We understand, you know, by regular accounts that he's an absolute beast in the bedroom. We understand that. That's fine. But well, you know, Sharon had those handcuffs for a reason, you know, and I bet she wasn't even the one wearing them.
Well, let's just say Keanu wasn't the only one crying when that scene came out.
It's mad, really. But yeah, so they've had a little tryst, but I think we're led to book it to the bedroom. So Phil gave her a good old Rogering on the stairs.
But you don't know that they came back into the lounge tucking their shirts in. Let's just.
They said that what Kat said to him. One day we might make it to the bedroom.
Oh God, no!
So that means they either did it on the stairs or the landing.
Kitchen table. People eat on that table. Thank goodness Dennis died.
Yeah. And then Ben comes home just as they're sort of, putting themselves together again. And Kat sort of goes to leave, and then basically Ben's like, well, what's she doing here? She's not trying to get more business out of us, does she? And then Phil starts kind of criticising Kat and slagging her off and calling her a scrubber and all of that sort of thing, and saying that, she's not really worth anything, which Kat overhears.
Yeah, which was not a good move by Phil, because obviously this whole week has been the Mitchells trying to upstage the Panesars, saying a weird comment this week that the Mitchells said that we have a lot of power around Walford, even though Danny Hardcastle, 3 months ago, said to the Mitchells, you have no power around Walford anymore. So somehow in this short time, they've now regained their power really quickly.
Well, we meet a new gangster this week. Now, you will remember, Alex, how mercilessly I ridiculed you about you assuming that there was such a thing as a gangster called Kevin. But now we appear to have Stan.
Shell suit Stan.
Stan the gangster.
Yeah.
With a ponytail, and like all bad guys, he smokes, because only bad people smoke. We've discovered that. Stan's hilarious.
I know. It's literally like he'd rolled out the school of gangster, isn't it?
And what is this thing? It's like, it seems to be something like money laundering or something.
It is money laundering. They're money laundering for Stan, Shellsuit Stan,
right.
And
Shellsuit Stan.
And he seems to have a lot of money, and this is what I mean. It's made the Panesars go over their head a little bit, because they thought it was going to be a meagre amount of £50,000 to launder, but no, it's twice that. It's £100,000 to launder.
I think that Stan has sort of seen like Kheerat's a little bit. What's the phrase? Green around the gills or something?
I think so. And he's refusing to ask Suki for help as well. He's determined to do this for himself, even though Vinny and, even Uncle Roger suggested that perhaps they didn't do it. Uncle Roger was back this week.
Can't wait to meet Uncle Roger.
I can't. Yeah, so it's a little bit random. So but the reason why Kheerat got this contract is because Stan found out that but Ben claims in a very loving way, calls him Shellsuit Stan, and that's disrespectful.
Oh yeah, it's talking about Shellsuit Stan. What I love now is the fact that Callum and Ben were sat in the Vic, and we've gone with Callum from literally right. I want to be a policeman, Ben, so I need you to respect my decisions and not do anything like criminal or stupid in front of me. Don't take the mick here. To where Ben and Callum are now sat in the Vic, laughing about this gangster that Ben's dealing with and all this money laundering and illegal activity that he's undertaking. Oh, we're always saying Shellsuit Stan in the living room. It's a right laugh between us. It's like our own little gag. So Callum's absolutely fine with this.
Yeah, he
doesn't have an issue.
He's turning a blind eye. This is Callum, who couldn't turn a blind eye with Frankie hitting someone in a nightclub. He had to report it. He's a police officer after all.
Didn't arrest Ben when he tried to start a fight with Kheerat in the Vic, by the way, when he chucked a bar stool across the room.
Yeah. He's very blind to the kind of law breaking in Walford, isn't he?
Useless.
He is useless. I mean, again, which is the
Worst
reason
copper ever.
It just doesn't make sense for Callum to become a police officer and be intertwined with the Mitchells. It was a really bad move, and I just think, what were they thinking?
I don't know. How was he still a copper? He's really bad at it. Anyway, so but basically, this whole thing seems to be about establishing a sort of turf war between the Mitchells and the Panesars, which is what we've been wanting for a while now, isn't it?
Have we?
Well, I have. No, we've said that we wanted the Panesars to start really taking charge and really sort of challenging. And the first thing you've got to do if you're going to challenge anybody in the square for turf and all of that sort of thing is the Mitchells and Phil.
But at the same time, I just it's gangster stuff again, isn't it? And why couldn't they have done it where they had a nice little tea party? I know, but why can't they just do it in a kind of, because the heist is inevitable, isn't it? There is a heist coming.
Yeah.
Why? Why can't they?
Because
I'm happy for them. Why don't they have this kind of war between them in Albert Square? Like one gets the job and then the other one gets the job, and it's kind of this constant kind of like battle to get supremacy, and ultimately, it
might be that.
Maybe
you don't know. You don't know that there's a heist coming. I mean, I don't know how many heists you need to do with money laundering. I'm not that au fait with money laundering. I assume you just stick a few £20 notes in a washing machine and you're done.
That's not how money laundering works, Robin. You know it.
Oh, I see.
It just really winds me up that they're doing this kind of ridiculous, over-the-top, big gangster story. It's like, why can't the Panesars take over the square by taking over property, which seemed to be their original plan? So they were going to get.
They've done that.
Well, they haven't really. They've got the Suki Mart, and they've got that flat above the bookies, and they have one flat that they own Although they have a couple of flats, don't they? But they're off the square, so they don't count. They don't count in this instance. So
I mean, but this is Suki we're talking about, like, because there was like a really brief moment where Suki and Phil had a thing. When she went to the Minute Mart and Phil was basically just taunting Suki and saying, keep your kids' nose out of my business, or there's going to be hell to pay and all this sort of thing, and they just sort of sauntered out, which is why I think Kheerat is keeping stuff from Suki, because he knows that Suki wants complete and utter charge of it. Now, I think it's interesting, actually, because Kheerat and Ben had a scene in Ruby's where Kheerat actually turned around to Ben and said, me and you aren't that different, which in a few different, if you look at it, they're actually not, because they've both got overbearing sort of parents in this sort of field that want to have complete charge of it and want the kids to just obey their every command. And you've basically got Ben and Kheerat, who are two people that seem to want to branch out and prove themselves and prove that they're not just under their parents' thumb. It sort of seems by the end of the week that Kheerat and Ben are maybe going to form some form of alliance at some point, or Ben is just manipulating the situation, which I think is more likely. As he says to Kheerat, if you sleep with a snake, you're going to get bit. That well-known, that well-known catchphrase.
I don't know. They just seem to be making it up as they go along again, which I could argue about that with anything. But having heard you say that about the similarities between Ben and Kheerat, yes, it makes sense for them to do it together. And again, it would be nice if there was the scene then where they kind of realise their similarities and could work together. But I think Ben is ultimately just setting Kheerat up for a very big fall.
Ben's got his own motives, doesn't he? Because because the thing is, Phil turned around to him and said, "No, look, we're not going to get involved. Just let them ruin it for themselves, and then we'll just stride in and pick up the pieces," which is a fairly sensible plan, to be fair. But Ben, being in typical Ben mode, wants to be the big man, and presumably is going to stride in and just mess everything up and prove to Phil, "See, I know best. I can handle this stuff." And it's all going to go. I think it's all going to go wrong for both of them, and it's going to result in some massive sort of turf war between the Panesars and the Mitchells. And I welcome that, because I want to see the Panesars really stepping up to the plate, because it really is starting to feel, for me, I don't know about you, but for me, it is really starting to feel as though the Panesars could genuinely be competitors for the Mitchells, because I think we've had plenty of people over the years that have tried to come in and have tried to take on Phil and ultimately failed miserably because Phil is untouchable. For the first time in a long time, it feels like the Panesars could be the ones that sort of really give Phil some trouble.
I agree. I just wish that they'd shown that the Panesars had tread on the Mitchells' toes a little bit more than just this week. And so you saw like this competitiveness between the two families happen. I would hope the end of the Mitchell kind of power hold on the square.
Empire.
And that the Panesars are the ones that win. And it's in my predictions, but there's a story that I really want them to do with Phil. And I think I have mentioned it in the past, but there's such a good story they could do with Phil, and it would be, I don't think I'm ruining it by saying, I think it would be his exit story if they were to do it. But it could be done over a very long stretch of time if they were willing to try. And it seems like the right time to hand over the torch now to a new family, the stronghold over the Walford and the over Albert Square. But I just hope that they do. I mean, the Panesars, they've been there over a year now, and they just don't. For me, they haven't seemed to kind of really been just to that point yet that you could then see it that they would take over. Maybe.
Well, I know what you mean, because it's mostly been about Suki, hasn't it?
Yeah,
and sort of about, and it's mostly what it's basically been is like our stuff with the Panesars has been Suki's hold over her kids, and Suki's and sort of working out the hierarchy in the Panesar family. Jag's right at the bottom, easily disposable. That's why he was sent to prison.
Yeah,
and then I think Vinny is probably going to be next on the list, and then Kheerat, Ash probably quite far down as well. I think
it's funny you say that, because I think Ash is an interesting one, because I think now Ash every now and then you see a little bit of Suki in Ash, and I think that Suki knows that. I don't know, I can't help but think there's going to be one hell of a thing happen with Ash at some point that's going to break her, and then she'll be kind of with open arms brought into the Panesar family, because she's been fighting so hard to get out of that family, but now her world that she built up to get out is slowly crumbling apart, thanks to Peter, in no small part.
Yeah.
And Peter's has had involvement with the Panesars as well, so it kind of makes sense for him to kind of be brought in as well in a funny, weird, kind of strange way. I mean, he's very tall, and he, has a cape, so he could help. And
Peter Beale being the banana skin that Suki slips on.
Banana Man. Peter Beale is Banana Man, and
the cape.
Oh God, he looks a bit like Eric, doesn't he, when he peels the banana? And
he does.
It. And so anyone outside the UK will not get any of these references. And I don't know. I think that Ash has more power in that family than we're led on to believe. And I like that. And I like that because when Suki found out about Ash this week, you could just tell he thought, hang on, this could be an opportunity here. This guy could try to get Ash back into the hold here. But they definitely need to have a more of a family unit than just Suki and Kheerat. And I would like it to be Ash as well, because it'd be nice to have two very strong females and a male as well. That would be a real nice dynamic in there. But so I don't know. You've kind of changed my mind a little bit about this whole turf war story. At first, I was a bit like, oh no, they're gonna. But I think you're right. I think it's necessary for this story to move on.
That's the sort of hierarchy in EastEnders at the minute, and has been for years and years and years, and probably will be for a while to come. If you want to establish a family that are not to be messed with, they have to take on the Mitchells at some point. It's as simple as that. That's initiation almost, isn't it? Depending on how much trouble you give Phil, is how much you're to be taken seriously as a family. And I really think that, I love the scenes between Phil and Suki. They're just electric, and I want more of them. Just sort of Suki standing there all cool and collected, and Phil just sat there with a vein out the side of his head. I love it. I'm really enjoying this, and I hope that, because the thing is, at the minute, I'm feeling like the show is in major block storytelling mode at the minute. It didn't seem to be as bad a few months ago, but it's really obvious at the minute. So the whole Phil and Suki thing, when Phil was smashing up the office, and him and Suki had that great scene in the office. That feels like it was weeks ago, and it's not really been touched upon since then. So it seems like we're finally back with the Mitchell, Suki, and Panesar stuff. So hopefully, in the coming weeks, it's going to really be allowed to develop, and we'll be talking about a different side of it come a couple of weeks from now.
I think because the show is so desperate to keep Phil in almost every single story at the moment, I think it's almost a problem that they've done that, because it means that they can't focus on one main story for Phil. And I think that if they were able to just focus with this story for the Mitchell family and the Panesars, and they always just have it could be one of those stories that could go on for a year, for a year and a half, whatever. It's just always bubbling in the background. So every now and then you hear a little tidbit from something that's happened between the Panesars and the Mitchells, while other stories happen in the foreground, and then it gets brought forward every now and then. I hate block storytelling in soaps. And when we first started doing the soap, it was very, very noticeable they were doing it. When Kate Oates came in, you could tell that everyone was kind of mixing in and all that. But again, I think, oh God, here we go, broken record. It's a sign of the pandemic. So is why this is happening. And so in July, get ready for July, kids, maybe you could start seeing things on screen in about August start to kind of unwind a little bit and open up a little bit more. Maybe.
Let's hope so.
Can we quickly talk about the love triangle between Kheerat, Ben and Sharon? And it's...
Oh my God, yes.
And it reminded me of that scene when Ben... God, so long ago, when Ben tried to get Billy assassinated, and there was that scene in the alleyway, and he was really turned on by the idea of getting someone killed, and there was touches of that. But a lot of people online are saying that Kheerat and Ben or Kheerat and Sharon, is there potential there? Do you think?
Right, so if you're looking at Kheerat and Sharon, for example, you've got to think of the future, haven't you? And sort of go, right, so what would the result be if these two characters got together? So Kheerat and Sharon getting together, that's going to be pretty cataclysmic in terms of this war between the Mitchells and the Panesars, isn't it?
Indeed, definitely.
So I reckon that's maybe quite likely. I mean, Sharon's ability to just pull any young bloke that comes her way, it's flawless, it's amazing, Keanu, now Kheerat, why the hell not? She's the most envied woman in all of soap, is Sharon.
I live my life by Sharon every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen your eyes. I don't know. There was a bit of I'm not a huge fan of this sort of two characters that have literally never interacted, and all of a sudden that they're ripping each other's clothes off. But,
I know.
You've got to think of the future. I don't think there's going to be anything between Ben and Kheerat. I get why people think it, because they're just desperate for Ben to snog something. And I don't think it's going to be between Kheerat and Ben. I think there's going to be quite a fiery relationship between Ben and Kheerat, which I welcome. But I don't think they're going to go down for having two bisexual / gay kids in the Panesar family.
No, that's true. I mean, I'm just being really whimsy with this question, to be perfectly honest with you. It's just that it's interesting that, as you say, all it takes is one scene between two characters and everyone instantly jumps on it and thinks, oh, hang on.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, I have always really loved the idea of sort of two, like, almost, it's a bit Romeo and Juliet-y, sort of Capulet and Montague type of thing, where, you know, you've got the two sort of gangster kids who fall in love with each other and the two parents who hate each other and despise each other, and they've got to keep this relationship secret while this war's going on between them. I like that sort of story, but I don't think that's what we're going to get this time, unfortunately.
Oh, well. Sorry, kids out there who wanted this...
Sorry.
What was it,
Stuck
10?
with Balaam for now.
Yeah, you're going to have to stick with Balaam. I mean, there's always the wedding...
Kheerat.
Barat. There's the wedding coming up, isn't there? And there's been a lot of hints between Ben and Callum's wedding that it's actually going to be coming sooner than they first thought. So, I mean, there has to be some sort of, you know, tension between maybe Ben and Callum before they can have a happy day together. So maybe that will be it.
I'm still telling you, Callum's going to die on his wedding day, and it's going to. And this is probably the lead up to it. Like, there's going to be some tumultuous gun war or something between Phil and one of the, and probably Kheerat, and Callum's going to get hit by a bullet or something in between it, and.
Then wolves will come over and tear his skin apart.
Yeah. But then helicopter will crash on top of them.
A shard of glass will go straight through his chest.
Yeah. Decapitate him. Yeah, it's all going to happen. It's all going to get very Final Destination.
And he'll still come back in 10 years and as if nothing happened.
Be fine. Oh, tis but a flesh wound. And then finally this week, we've got a massive revelation.
Yes, about Isaac.
Yes. Now, the thing is, I had no idea what was going on with Isaac until we had a conversation last week on the podcast where you were saying that there was rumours going around that Isaac was going to be diagnosed with HIV. And after I heard that, I was watching the Isaac stuff, and all of a sudden, like, everything seemed to be leading to that. Like, it had cemented in my brain that was what it was going to be. You know, Sheree being really kind of possessive over Isaac and not wanting to get into a relationship because of the stigma attached, you know, and you don't, you know, how do you introduce the idea that your new partner has got HIV to someone like Lola? So it seemed to all be heading in action. And then Isaac and Sheree are having this argument in the salon, and Isaac just shouts out that he's got schizophrenia to Sheree. And I was in the bath when I was watching this, and I gasped really loudly.
Like you said, when you were watching it, you thought that, that made sense. Like when he was talking about safe sex with Patrick as well. And yeah. And so I thought, I was fairly certain, I thought, it's going to be it. It's definitely going to be it.
Yeah, so you know, and he was talking about this, like, past relationship that he'd had that had ended badly. So I was automatically assuming, right, so he's got with this woman, she's cheated on him and got and infected herself, and then passed it on to him, which is why he's now in the position that he's in. So I thought it was all leading to that. I liked the surprise.
I did.
Did twist.
Did you think that it was done well though? Because did he want it done in a much more? I mean, obviously it was building. It was build up. So Isaac was built up and up and up and up, getting more and more frustrated by his mum kind of interfering with his life and his love life with Lola. Did it feel right that he had this kind of just outburst?
Yeah, say it, mum. Schizophrenia. Yeah, I mean, it was a bit awkward. It didn't, because I think the shock of what he actually said kind of distracted me from like any sort of awkwardness of the scene.
How is Lola going to react to this?
Well, yeah, I mean, there is that. I mean, to be fair, I think Lola will be all right with it. I think what I'd like them to do from here on in is sort of address sort of the stigma attached to something like schizophrenia. Yeah. You know, and I can imagine someone like Lola, her first reaction will be, well, you're a psychopath, so I don't want you anywhere near my kids, so no, we can't date. In fact, do you know what I mean? Like, that's presumably something that's going to be said at some point by someone like Lola. I won't lie, I'm a little bit nervous as to how this is going to be tackled by sort of this current style that EastEnders have had recently. It doesn't help. I mean, we were talking about this before we started recording. The Joe Wicks storyline from the 90s, who was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and the whole story actually was, as my nan used to say, from the cradle to the grave. So, you know, Joe started exhibiting symptoms and worrying signs and started doing strange things, and slowly but surely, like, he's diagnosed and he gets worse before he gets better and all. And so it was a really long-running story, quite a fairly famous story, I'd say, in EastEnders history. And so we're back with schizophrenia again. Now, the difference is obviously that Isaac's apparently been diagnosed with this for years, so seems to be taking medication, and he's got a job as a teacher and all of this sort of thing. So that's nice to show that all of this is possible, that you can live a fairly normal life. Presumably, at some point, he's going to have some. I mean, I think the word's episode, something's going to break him. I think, and could they have to do something like that to show the
what his very worst is, so they can build him back up again to become what he is at the moment.
I mean, I'm gonna go with cautious optimism at the moment. I really don't. This is the thing. I don't want it to be really sort of ham-fisted with loads of, because guarantee we're gonna have a point of view episode at some point from Isaac, probably written by Simon Ashdown. Yeah, that's going to be when they start to maybe do sort of arty tricks and cameras and the cast dressed up in demon outfits or whatever, sound effects, yeah, all of that sort of thing. All of that sort of. You're trying to give me ASMR.
I'm just trying to do it as subtly as EastEnders won't be doing it. Do you think they'll do a slow down moment? I was surprised they didn't do it with Isaac when he announced it. I've got schizophrenia. It's bound to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is my concern. I fully applaud them for tackling this because it's a meaty story that I think needs to be discussed, and it's a great story. Schizophrenia, I was looking at, it affects 1 in 100 people in the UK.
Wow.
So there's obviously different branches of it. There's different types, paranoid and simple, and all of this. So there's loads of different types of it. So it'll be interesting to see which avenue they go down with it. And I have absolutely no doubt that they'll be talking to mental health charities and all of this sort of thing, because you cannot tackle a story like this without knowing exactly what you're talking about, because that's just damn right irresponsible. And I have no doubt whatsoever that EastEnders will do that, because they have got a long history. No matter what you want to say about current storylining and all that sort of thing, they can't do a story like this without the research. I just don't want them to go too ham-fisted with all the special effects and all that sort of thing for When Isaac episode. There are ways of doing it well, but it worries me. That's all I would say.
Yeah, Microphone drop.
Drop to the floor. And I'm gone. Thank you. Join us next week.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really add much more to that other than to say, and again, I said this, I think, before we started recording, they seem to be doing another story which they've literally just finished airing or are airing on the repeats, the classic repeats on Drama Channel at the moment. And for anyone watching those, it's a very difficult line to tread, because personally, I'm going to be comparing it now to the Joe Wick story. And
you can't help but do that, can you?
Exactly.
Really?
And as you say, the Joe Wick story is very well done. I mean, he developed it. He must have had it from a young age, but he developed it a lot worse once his sister died, because he blamed himself for that. I'd be interested to know what was the switch that caused Isaac's schizophrenia. I guess we're led to believe it's meant to be the relationship that he had, and perhaps it was a very bad breakup between them, and it caused him to kind of, or maybe it was building up in the relationship.
I mean, I would also argue that, we're talking 20 odd years since the Joe Wick story, sort of medical research has come on a long way. So I would imagine they'll be saying the doctors will be saying different things now to what they would have done to Joe in the 90s.
Yeah.
So I imagine that, to be honest with you, I don't know if schizophrenia is one of these things where there is a trigger, or whether it's just something that begins to happen to you like any other sort of mental illness. And if I'm using any wrong terms here, then I deeply apologise. So yeah, I mean, we just wait and see, I guess. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic about it, because it's a huge story. It'd be nice for Isaac, this character who's sort of been quite underrepresented since he came into it, not really done a huge amount, to be given such a massive story. So I'm looking forward to it and seeing how they're going to do it out, but just please don't go overboard with all the special effects, please, for the love of God.
Please do it with the subtlety that it deserves, because I think a story like this, if done subtle, I think it would just be a much more louder voice rather than just being thrown in your face. Okay, I know you enjoy doing that at the moment, writers and producers of EastEnders, fine, but maybe give this the care that it absolutely needs. You've dropped the ball on a few issue-based stories recently. Let's be honest, they have. Let's maybe pick up the ball and have another go at schizophrenia, right?
Let's give schizophrenia a crack, shall we?
Let's have a go.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this is the sort of story that EastEnders should thrive on, because it's one of those stories that sort of the other soaps don't really do, and it's the sort of thing that EastEnders tends to tackle head on. So they should be in territory that they know how to do it well. Give them some credit. Let's say this could be an amazing story, and then see how it pans out.
I will praise EastEnders till the cows come home. I always err on the side of positivity, where maybe other watchers don't quite so much. And I although you may not believe it sometimes by the way I talk, I do want the show to do this well. It's just that with Bobby's story, I feel like they just don't care anymore. With Gray and Chantel's story, they clearly have just forgotten about that. And it's just, there's so many examples where they're currently just not doing it right. And they could, if they could do this right, then yay. And also don't just make it like we find out this week, Lola finds out next week, the third week he has an episode, fourth week he recovers from it, never heard from it again. That would really do my nut in, and I don't want them to do that. This is a story now. This is where we build Isaac up from now on. We didn't know a lot about Isaac other than he liked to occasionally miss kids' club and drink and smoke on the bench. Now we know this quite big part of him. This is the building block. This is the foundation. Now you build on top of this. Don't just knock away that cornerstone and then start again with him because you've got bored of writing about schizophrenia.
Yeah. This isn't like when you gave Ian Beale diabetes.
Yes, exactly.
Not quite the same thing.
Fantastic example, and we're going to end on there.
There you go.
Right, as usual, you guys have been getting in touch with us with your point of view about the show, so it's time to read some of them out on I Ain't One to Gossip.
You know me, I ain't one to gossip.
So it's the time at the end of the show where we read some of your comments on our Twitter, Instagram, our Facebook group, and what you sent to us on our email addresses. All the details will be at the end of the show, so stay listening for them. All right, I'm starting off on Twitter. At Ben's Bobby said, I enjoyed this week, although I'm confused as to whether we're meant to feel sorry for Ruby when she's been lying through her teeth the entire time. Obviously, the miscarriage is devastating, but if she blames Stacey for losing the baby, I'm not sure I have much sympathy for her.
I'm surprised by the viewpoint that we've both taken on it. Until you said that, like, you know, you can see exactly where Ruby's coming from in terms of blaming Stacey. I hadn't thought about it, but in a lot of ways, you know, it's Stacey's not 1,000,000% innocent. Now, I don't believe that it's going to be done with quite as much layers as that. It's going to be literally Ruby is lying and Stacey is innocent.
Yeah.
Don't think we're really supposed to be feeling sorry for Ruby on the grand scheme of things. Like, the thing is, we've got to remember that anything that she's doing about it, she has gone through a miscarriage, which is a deeply traumatic thing for a woman to go through. So for that part of it, I feel very sorry for her. Her reaction to that and how she, you know, sort of how her lies will go throughout the next week. It depends on how much sympathy she's going to get, I think.
But I do sympathise with Ruby on this, and as you say, it's a horrible thing for any woman to go through. It'd be interesting to know Martin's reaction. I don't think we really discussed it too much, but I'd be interested to know how Martin's reaction will be. Not by him blaming Stacey, but him losing a child too. Because sometimes you don't... Obviously, it's a huge deal for a woman to lose a child. But sometimes you forget the husband also has lost the child too. And so maybe Martin feel some feelings toward it too in that respect.
Rachel Richardson on Facebook says, I thought Friday was a decent episode and made me laugh at points, especially when Kheerat said, I'm sorry, is that the point where I'm supposed to be scared? Also was surprised that Isaac had schizophrenia, as it looked like they were going in an HIV direction. I'm so scared that EastEnders is going to misrepresent another mental illness. We discussed that pretty thoroughly. We applaud them for going for it, but just don't mess it up, as RuPaul would not say.
No, but you're right. You're paraphrasing, but you're right. And I'm surprised you used a RuPaul quote, quite frankly, Rob.
Do you know why? Because every single gay man in the world, apart from me, is quoting it. Like, do you know what? The RuPaul thing, it's like when kids used to be obsessed with Power Rangers in the playground. And all the kids were like quoting from Power Rangers, saying, it's morphin' time. It's literally, RuPaul has done that to the gay community and it annoys me.
You've literally bookended this episode as a rant about RuPaul at the beginning and a rant about RuPaul at the end. For someone who doesn't watch RuPaul, you know a lot about RuPaul.
I'm just a troll. What can I say? I'm an absolute troll. I've got to say, I thought this was a really good week on the whole. I thought there was a lot. I thought it was quite a busy week. You know, I think a lot of stories went in directions that I wasn't expecting them to, and I like it when EastEnders does that. And I'm intrigued, and I'm actually looking forward to Monday's episode to see how any of the stories sort of go forward. So, you know,
I reckon about half of them will be forgotten. And we won't be going back to them for a long time.
No. Yeah, we'll deal with Ruby again in April.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh dear. Well, thank you all for your comments. You can contact us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly. Find us on Facebook on Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe and click the bell to get notifications about our spoiler videos and the Ben's Roundup of the Week videos. You can listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify or any of your favourite podcast sites. You can email us at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, same annoying voices. So until then, we bid you all goodbye.
Goodbye. The spirit of Toya Wilcox.